Good morning, one and all. How the devil are you doing this Friday? Happy Friday. More importantly, very happy birthday to our main man, Mr. Gary Muirhead. Very, very happy birthday indeed, Gary. Let me see. I have some confetti here. This is for Gary Muirhead's birthday. Had I planned it in advance, I could probably have played Happy Birthday to you, but I didn't. But happy birthday, Gary. I think he's here. And yeah, lots of people spotted this. One of the few upsides of Facebook is the reminders of birthdays. Let's have a look. Who did we have here? There's Jim Turner. He was off the mark. Morning and happy birthday, Gary. Steve Williamson. Morning, or rather, happy birthday, Gary. There is the birthday boy himself. Morning, Gary. Who else do we have? Yeah, thanks, Stevie. Much appreciated. Our main man, Mick Norton, is here as well. Nice colour theme today, Mark. Thank you. In actual fact, just showing off the trousers. This, yeah, you know, there are people that would turn up to a live stream in their own house and just, you know, just make do. Not me. I'm fully dressed for the damn thing. There's my other half wishing Gary a happy birthday. Dan Cullen doing the same. Mick Norton doing the same. Gary Muirhead says, thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. I'm 52 today and my son is 18. Wow, double birthday. I know my wife and my daughter are separated by one day. My wife is July the 17th. My daughter is 18th of July. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. Just as a small aside, I know Gary's going to be jetting off on holiday if he hasn't done so already. But Gary, in addition to happy birthday, thanks for all your support over the years. Really is much appreciated. While we're about all of that, very quick happy birthday to West Ham United's very own Vladimir Soufal. I know he's a big fan of the show, so yeah. There you go. There's Chris Ford. Morning, Chris. Happy birthday, Gary. What it is, isn't it nice to be popular, right? And there's Gary saying thank you to my other half. And there's Chris Ford. Nice to know you're fully dressed. Yeah, not always been the case, I have to say. And Andy here, it's Friday, it's 5 to 5, and it's no, too early. We need one of those, I think. It's Friday, it's 10 o'clock, and it's that pillock with a hat on. Actually, Gary is off on his hollybobs on Sunday. Yeah, looking forward to that. No doubt about it. Will you be tuning in from sunny Tenerife? Speaking of which, going on Sunday, not a bad idea, because I understand that some of the airports have cancelled flights today because of the high winds, which certainly my part of the world seem worse today than they were yesterday. Alex Latham is here as well, who is becoming a show regular. Morning, Alex. And Mark Whiting, who already is a show regular, is here as well. Good morning to you, Mark. And very, very quickly, you know, I was babbling on yesterday about unions. You remember that? Yeah, I was talking about unions and the fight for the right to party or the fight for the rights of workers. Well, have a look at this. So this popped up on Construction Index yesterday. The UK construction industry has seen substantial wage inflation over the past year, but not if you work in plant, it seems. Construction's unskilled and semi-skilled site labourers saw an increase of 8.2% in their pay packets compared from the quarter two of 2024 compared to quarter two 2023. Skilled and mechanical trades got a whopping 14.8% rise, but plant operatives saw no increase at all, 0%. And as a result, they dragged down the industry average increase in earnings to 4.6 year on year. Yeah. What would a union make of that? Just asking for a friend. Weird how these things flow together, though, isn't it? Given the fact that we do have quite a few plant operators in the chat, have you seen a pay rise? I think Dan Cullen is already on the case. Haven't seen any rise whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if that was universal. So let us know if you would be so kind. While you're thinking about that, what am I going to do? Oh, yes, I'm going to roll the intro and get this show on the road. That's what I do around about this time. Mick Norton says, the Hayes BICS source, never heard of them. Me either. And to be perfectly honest, I spotted it so late in the day, didn't have a chance to check it, but that's what it says. Gary Muirhead says, thanks, Chris, Dan, Jim, and anyone I've missed out. Much appreciated. Dan Cullen hasn't seen a pay rise in 3 years. Yeah. That's the truth of the matter. So, people, on with the show. Let's have a bit of this. Gary hitting the nail on the head. It says everything is going up but the wages. Yeah. Ain't nothing going on but the rent, as the song used to say. Can't remember where that comes from, but it did. It is Friday, the 23rd of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Antony, the walrus of demolition. Keep that in mind. In today's show, Caterpillar unleashes its next generation mining trucks, Veneri's venerable backhoe loaders, John Deere's multiple tiers of performance, and Bobcat's S450 compact wheel loader. We're going to put it under the microscope. Plus, in our after show chat, Mark's morning monologue, which now has its own jingle, I will be questioning the true efficiency of the UK demolition and construction sector. Incidentally, you know, I introduced myself as the walrus of demolition. If you remember rightly, it's because I was particularly hoarse one day. I think Jim Turner said I sounded like Barry White, the walrus of demolition. It stuck. I'm sticking with it. I wondered last night what a walrus of demolition might look like. So I typed into an AI image generator, walrus of demolition, and it came up with that. I have to be honest. Let me show you a bit clearer. There you are. The likeness is uncanny, isn't it? Yeah, the walrus of demolition. Pleased to meet you. Jim Turner says, I have no complaints about money, and I know some lads on another crowd that have had substantial pay rises to make sure they don't leave. I think these things are, you know, they are company specific. I think industry wide is what we're talking about. Not good either way, though, but good to see you're earning, good to see you're holding and folding, Jim, as it should be. Now, it is time for our mystery machine, isn't it? So let's have a bit of this. Now, we've only got about a week of this month's Mystery Machine to run, and Dan Cullen is in quite a substantial lead. He is still catchable, assuming somebody else wins everything between now and the end of the month, and he wins nothing at all. But this is what you've got to deal with today. This is today's Mystery Machine. Let me put it up properly, which is that button there. There you are. That's what you're looking at. While you're doing that, I'm going to pop over to Vivian Elizabeth. Jim Turner, try to add me now. I'm not sure what's going on there, but good morning to you. Steve says all our ops got a bigger pay rise than anyone else. As I say, not just local, but you know, it is industry wide. Peter McKenna has just joined us. Morning, Peter. Good of you to be here. Jim Turner, going back to my walrus of demolition. You sure that's not your passport photo? I wonder if I could get past American immigration with my walrus of demolition photograph in my passport. I'm thinking not. I have enough trouble getting past them as it is, because it says on my passport that I'm a journalist. They're not fans. They really are not fans. Better now, but I back in the day I did have quite a few not Middle Eastern, well, kind of Middle Eastern. I made the mistake of going to Egypt, Morocco, and Turkey about 3 months before I went to America, and the American immigration guy looked at all the three of those and said, "Yeah, I think we need to have a chat." Yeah, we did have a chat for quite some time. Thankfully, the chat did not at any moment involve rubber gloves. So we've had some guesses on our mystery machine. We've had Peter McKenna reckons it could be a Mechalak TLB 990. It is not. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Devellon DX 140. It is not. Mick Norton says, I would say the Hayes Bix source is totally unreliable based on thousands of plant operators in the sector. The problem with this, and I'm just going to take this away very quickly. I am watching with some interest the American election, or the forthcoming American election, um, because I'm hoping and praying that Donald Trump doesn't get the nod again. And obviously, there's lots and lots of American polls out there, and all of them make it very clear. Oh, Kamala Harris is up by 4 points in this particular area, but it's based on a core sample of about 1,500 people in one state, and there's a what do they call it? A probability or a variation of plus or minus 3%. So so we've plucked a figure out of the air, is more or less what they're saying. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Let's have a look. Steve reckons that our mystery machine could be a case 580 Baco. It is not. Peter reckons a Tata, a TA76. It's not. Dan Collins going for the Hitachi Zaxis 130. It is not. It is none of those things. Shall I show you a bit more? Seems only kind and proper. There you are. That's what it is. And while you're figuring that out, it is time for our first round of our excavator, first match of our second round of the Excavator World Cup. Back after this. Yeah. Now, it'd be interesting to see how you vote on this. Will you vote out of, I don't know, patriotism, preference? I don't know. We shall see, because today's match actually sees, well, it's transatlantic. It sees JCB from the UK. God bless her. Going head to head with John Deere from the mighty US of A. So, who are you going with? There you are. That's the graphic. Usual story. You've got 150,000 pounds, dollars, take your pick, to spend on excavators. You can only choose one of those two brands. Which one are you choosing? Are you choosing John Deere of America, or are you choosing JCB of the fine, upstanding country that is the UK? As per usual, the manufacturer with the most votes will go forward to the next round, while the manufacturer with the least will be going home empty-handed. Let's have a look. Do we have any votes yet? We've already had one for John Deere. In actual fact, I think that's an echo from yesterday. I think Peter actually voted for that yesterday. Steve Williamson is also going John Deere. No votes as yet for JCB. Going back to the mystery machine. We've had a vote for JCB. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for keeping up the British end. Let me go back to this, because we've had some guesses on this. That's the one I was after. Peter McKenna reckons it could be a JCB 3DX. It's not. Jim Turner, a Kubota backhoe loader. It's not. Gary Muirhead, a Ford DX60R. It's not one of those. So we've just let you know. We are now even Stevens. We have 2 votes for JCB, 2 votes for John Deere. In fact, we now have 3 votes for JCB. Mick Norton is going for dependability, John Deere; for local boy makes good, JCB. But which side of the fence are you coming down on? Mick, yours could be the deciding vote. Let us know. And Ken Hatcher, somewhat belated. I'm sure he has his note from his mum. Good morning, Ken. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let me take that away. I'll come back to all of that stuff and nonsense in the fullness of time. But first, we need to do this. It's an interesting one. All-Terrain Manx, good morning to you, my friend. Over on Instagram, just voted for JCB for the win today, which I thought was going to push things in JCB's favour. Mick Norton then comes back and says John Deere wins the day. So I think we're all pretty much even Stevens. Ken Hatter is off today. Didn't realise the time. How after 4.5 years, how is this not just part of your daily routine? How is it not? Have you not got an alarm on your phone or something to tell you Ken Hatcher just pushed JCB back into the lead? Maybe this is a second round thing. Maybe we're getting down to the nitty gritty now, and things are going to go a little bit more fraught in the Excavator World Cup. Now, couple of days ago, or a couple of nights ago, should I say? I think it was probably Wednesday. Sat there, laptop on my lap, which is where a laptop belongs, obviously, browsing YouTube, and a video came up of the brand new next generation mining trucks from Caterpillar. And I sent myself an email reminder to say tomorrow, put those on the show, which I fully intend to do. Obviously, they are being launched to coincide with Mine Expo in a couple of weeks' time. Turned on YouTube the following day, and the video had been removed. Weird, I thought. Started to make me wonder what was going on. Thankfully, the video came back. I'm about to show it to you.
Next generation Cat mining trucks are packed with new features to enhance productivity and boost the confidence of your operators. The cab was designed based on years of feedback from real Cat truck operators. This state-of-the-art environment offers maximized comfort and easy access to information. And it's filled with technology to increase awareness, improve cycle times, and drive up productivity. It features a number of systems that help new and experienced operators work with confidence. Our next generation trucks are designed to be quick and easy to maintain and service, lowering costs and downtime. And best of all, we design our trucks with the future in mind. Next generation Cat mining trucks. You just get more.
You just get more. A bit like this show, really. Peter McKenna says, what a beast. Yes, I think he was talking about the trucks. Hard to be sure, but I think he's absolutely right. Now, here's a weird coincidence. Gary Muirhead's guest for our mystery machine is the Venieri 823F backhoe loader. It's not, but guess who is in the film coming up in just a few seconds? Yeah, Venieri. How weird is that? Surely their future is in mines, not mined. Okay. Mick Norton says, Cat 780 looks like a cracking bit of kit. Have they an autonomous version? I would guess they probably have. I think, bearing in mind the presence of Caterpillar in the big mines in Africa and obviously in Australia, I think they are pretty much autonomous ready, regardless of whether it's required or not. So going back to our mystery machine, don't forget to vote. As it stands at the moment, JCB are winning 4-3. That's where we stand on our Excavator World Cup. But the mystery machine looks like this. What do we have? We have, that was Gary's guess. As I say, the Venieri. Dan Cullen is going for a Kubota MS 180. It's not one of those either. A Tifamec Dig. Dan's good at this game, but I have a funny feeling he just made that one up. Back right square underneath the top right one. No. I don't know. It's a random thing. So let me see what comes up next, shall we? We have a slight problem with the mystery machine. Why is that? Bear with me for a second, because we've only got 2 slides. And I know there's more than that. Let's have a quick look. I'm going to need to download this again. I tell you what, I'll be doing that in the background. Bear with me 1 second. Right, that's coming down the line. I'll come back to the mystery machine in just a moment. Let me take it away. Let me take that comment away from Peter McKenna. That one. Gary Muirhead is going for the Hydromec HMK 102. It is not one of those. I'm going to take, let me remove that entirely. See if I can upload the other one just very quickly while we're all sat around doing nothing. I think it's that one there. Okay, while that's coming up the line, I'm going to take that away there. Mark's cheating, so he gets the win. Yes, I'm only going to show you 2 slides. So that will be a lot. Right, okay. While I'm doing that in the background, let's go pop over to Venieri, which was kindly flagged up by Gary Muirhead. Here we go. Bit of Italian flair there from the fine folks at Venieri. So I fixed the problem with the mystery machine, so I can show you a bit more now. There you are. Tell you what, there's 2 bits just to keep you interested. And I can tell you we've had more guesses. We've had Peter going with the New Holland B100D. It's not a Kubota. It's not a Hydromech. It's not a JCB Fordson. And it's not a JCB of any kind at all. Mick Norton says, I could see the Venieri being a very useful tool in a builder's yard. Totally. That, funny enough, they're another those manufacturers, I think, do quite a bit for the military. I think primarily the Italian military, but yeah, they make a lot of machines for the military. But make a damn fine backhoe loader. And the main man, whose name has gone completely out of my head, but Mr. Venieri himself, lovely fella. Always nice to see him at the exhibitions. Currently 4-3 to JCB. Could be a JCB win, sending John Deere packing. And there's the mystery machine. Just a quick reminder of what we've got there. So next up is going to be, what's up next? Yeah, funnily enough, John Deere, who are in 2nd place in the Excavator World Cup at the moment. We'll be back with them in just a moment. Yeah, so John Deere have got a new video out that shows the various tiers of performance that you can purchase when you purchase one of their machines. So this is the tiers of Deeres, sort of. Again, Steve Williamson says beast. Pretty sure he means the John Deere machines. Mick Norton says John Deere was producing machines 108 years before JCB arrived on the scene in 1945. No brainer, John Deere. But we've already logged your vote, so it's still 4-3 to JCB. But there's still time to go. Where we are running out of time, though, is on our mystery machine. There is only one more video to play, which means that unless somebody comes up with the right answer in the next, 2 minutes, it's going to be a victory to me, which means I'll be stepping three points closer to Dan Cullen. Steve is going for the Kubota M59. It is not. Let me just take it away for a second. Yes, I can show you a bit more. There you are. That is what we're looking at. I'll remind you once again, I think we've all figured out what type of machine it is, but nobody has even mentioned the right make yet. I need a make and a model, and nobody has mentioned the right make. So if you said Kubota, JCB, Hydramec, Venieri, any of those, none of them are right. Nobody's got the right makers yet. So keep those guesses coming. I'm going to take it away because we're going back to the main part of the show, which will be Bobcat immediately after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
The Excavator World Cup just got very, very interesting indeed, because Alex Latham has thrown his hat into the John Deere ring. 4-4. 4-4 at the moment. All-Terrain Max has just said, is our mystery machine a Manitou Maniho? It is not. That's what it looks like. Can I give you a bit more? I can. There you are. That is, 3/4 of the machine, and nobody has got the right make yet. I can tell you that our next film is about 1.5 minutes long. If nobody gets it between now and then, I get the 3 points. Gary Muirhead going for the case 580 SN. It is not a case of any description. Let me take that away because I do need to press on with Bobcat. Here we go.
My name is Jay Kumar. I am working for Aroma International Building Contracting LLC. Last 17 years I am in UAE. We are doing the building constructions, office, commercials, everything. We had totally 12 Bobcat in our company, and past 2008 we are using the Bobcat. At S130 we have started using it, and now we are using S450, and more we are going to take in this month, near to by 2 or 3 more we will be going to take it out for our new projects. We like the Bobcat because the Bobcat has a freely and friendly user itself. For the operation manual and using for the people who have they can easily operate the vehicle. And there are some of the safety precautions are there, and it is very interested when we will remove the safety belt, the automatically Bobcat will be stopped by running it. We went to see the other skip loaders from other companies. So when we saw it, the best was the Bobcat in the safety precautions and everything, and the manual system which we are using for the pick and drop the materials here and there to transfer it. It was very good. My operators are very happy with it, in that the cabin was closed, and this cabin, you can see this cabin one side is open. So we are very happy with Bobcat S450. From 2008 until now we are going with Bobcat it is.
Proper international, love it. Jim Turner says, looking at the size of the heaps, there's some bigger kit knocking about than Bobcat makes. Indeed there was. It looks like I've got myself a victory because nobody has got the right machine. I can tell you, Gary suggested it could be a Bobcat B730. It's not. Dan Cullen, a Tata 180. It's not. Dan Cullen also going for a Tatami TH76. Nope, not one of those. Alex Latham going for a Hitachi BX100. It's not. And Peter McKenna going for a Shinrai Power 4. Never heard of it, but no, it's none of those things. I can tell you now that it is one of those. That right there is a Fiat Hitachi FB 100.2. It's a Fiat Hitachi backhoe loader. So that's 3 points to me. Not bad. Not bad considering, I'm just sat in an office and no soddle. So yes, victory for me. Victory for me. Now, speaking of victories, we have ourselves an issue when it comes to the Excavator World Cup because it's a draw. It's a draw, and we all know how that pans out. So I'm going to do this little bit over to camera because I cut this out afterwards. So the latest round of our Excavator World Cup competition pitted JCB against John Deere, but which brand came out on top? Well, we put it to the public vote, and I can tell you it was a draw. It was a draw. So the casting vote falls to me, and I'm going to vote. Do I vote with my head, which likes to sport a John Deere baseball cap, or do I vote with my heart? Because there's always a part of me up in Staffordshire next door to JCB. I'm going JCB. Funnily enough, just coming in under the line or under the wire, Graham Footy Williams has just voted for JCB as well. So mine was the casting vote, but not entirely. So who have we got next? I think it's Owen K against somebody next week for the next second round. Oh yes, it's Owen K against Priestman in the next round. So if you'd like to influence that in any way, shape or form, tune in on Monday. Make sure you tune in and take part. So congratulations to JCB, commiserations to John Deere, and congratulations also to me because I've just won. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. Magnanimous in defeat. Very light on the front end with the pecker on. What is? Peter McKenna says, I got the right make in the end, just not the right model. Okay. Yep. So there we are. We can round all of that out. It's going to be time for Mark's morning monologue in just a moment. And I've done away with the interlude that we had before because I've got a new one, and it looks like this. Yeah, all created by AI, even the music. God, I love that crap, haven't you? 5 minutes it took me last night to sort that out. Who have we got here? Dan Cullen says, that was my next bloody guess. And our friend Footy, still no work. Yeah, but pay attention to what I'm about to say because your current predicament kind of is covered today. Now, I do need to stop before I start the next bit to say very good morning to Matthew James Blake from Austin in Texas. How is Austin in Texas? I'm sure it's gorgeous. Good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Are you in the trade? Are you in the construction business? Love to hear from you. But as you're a newcomer to the show, you get some welcome confetti. Good morning to Matthew James Blake and everyone else in Austin, Texas this morning. Who else do we have here? And he's just answered the question. I could have predicted this. What's the weather like in Austin, Texas? It's hot. Yeah, no shit. Right, okay, it is time for Mark's morning monologue, which goes a bit like this. The smiling and benevolent gods of progress and technology have bestowed upon us the ability to communicate instantly across vast expanses of land, sea, and space. We can monitor, manage, and even operate equipment located hundreds or even thousands of miles away. We can identify tiny faults within remote machines, diagnosing them and fixing them long before that fault becomes costly downtime. We can call upon real-time data so that we know down to the millimeter how much material has been moved and where it's been moved to. In short, demolition and construction really should be a beacon of efficiency in an often chaotic world. But is it? I'm not so sure. So yesterday I was browsing through LinkedIn and I came across a post from a company that was looking for someone to haul their crusher back from just outside Manchester to its home in the south of England. They weren't looking to deploy their own transport, nor were they seemingly seeking a licensed heavy haulage contractor. A Google search would have sorted that out. They were looking for someone with a flatbed. They were looking for someone with a flatbed truck that just happened to be passing by. Surely, if you send your crusher halfway up the motorway, you should probably give some thought about how you might get it back again. This is not an isolated incident. On the very same day, I saw a second LinkedIn post, this one looking for someone to haul away several skiploads of demolition waste. Shouldn't that be planned ahead of time? Surely you know that demolition would give rise to waste. There's more. How many agencies receive a frantic call for workers to start the following Monday? On the flip side, how many workers get to site each day to learn that either they or their machine has been off-hired? How many working men and women arrive at site only to be sent home for wearing the wrong colour PPE, all for the sake of a phone call? How many times do you see multiple trades tripping over each other because they were all told to arrive on site at precisely the same time? How many times do you see the same pile of muck or material moved from one place to another because no one thought about the best place to put it in the first place? And then there's the one that really does take the proverbial biscuit. On 3 separate occasions in very quick succession, viewers of this show have had to down tools because for one reason or another, the diesel didn't turn up. Major national construction and demolition companies working on multi-million-pound projects utilising Lord alone knows what value of equipment, and the entire team is scratching its collective arse because some numpty forgot to order or deliver the diesel. How? Is the fact that machines require diesel a surprise to you? We have a training course and a competence card for everything. We have a piece of paper and a tick box for everything. We have a procedure for everything. Everything except ordering the bloody diesel, apparently. Despite the advent of fleet tracking technology and telematics, how many jobs up and down the UK are stopped each week because the wrong machine is in the wrong place at the wrong time? It truly blows my mind that we live in an age in which we have access to the most reliable equipment in the history of this business. Equipment that monitors itself for faults. Equipment that can communicate with the dealer to alert that fault and to order parts required to rectify them. Yet that machine could still find itself stationary for lack of diesel. And if you think it's bad now, imagine the situation when we switch to electricity. If the same person that forgot to organise the diesel is in charge of charging machines, operators will arrive to find their batteries flat and then face 8 hours of thumb twiddling while the machine is charged. Over in the manufacturing sector, there is a principle called JIT, or just in time. It's a production strategy aimed at improving efficiency and reducing waste by receiving goods only as and when they are needed in the production process. Developed at least in part by Toyota, this method minimises inventory costs as materials are not stored for long periods and production schedules are closely aligned with customer demand. JIT requires precise planning, reliable suppliers, and smooth production flows to avoid delays that could disrupt the entire manufacturing process. JIT has become a key principle in lean manufacturing, helping companies respond quickly to market changes while maintaining exceptionally high standards. Manufacturing has just in time. Demolition construction has just too late. None of these things, the delivery of machines and fuel, the correct allocation of suitable workers, should be taking us by surprise in a supposedly mature and efficient industry sector. We know weeks, months, and even years in advance what is required, when and where. So why are we still found wanting? Just one final note here. Here in the UK, construction employs around 3 million people and accounts for roughly 7% of GDP. It provides the homes we live in, the schools where our children are taught, hospitals that cure our sick, and roads to allow people and goods to travel freely up and down the country. And yet, in this day and age, all of that hinges upon somebody remembering to order the bloody diesel. There you are. That's my my final one of the day. Let's have a look. What have we got? What do we have here? Steve Williamson is planning to be in Texas in 2026. What is happening in 2026, Steve? Is this just a planned trip, or are you doing it to coincide with something? But Texas is lovely. I've been off work, too far away. Don't fancy doing 800 miles to get to work and home each day and spending that much money. Fair comment. We get the last minute off hire at 5 p.m. on a Friday evening. Even setting aside the efficiency side of that argument, what about, just the moral responsibility of that. You know, if I mean, Footy had it. I think Footy dropped me a message on Monday to say that he'd been off hired, but he was finishing, you know, in a week's time or whatever it might be. A week is not a lot of time to find a new job, but it's some time. But if you're off hired on a Friday, you know, out of the blue, nobody's going to be taking calls for recruitment on a Saturday or a Sunday. So you are basically unemployed for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, quite possibly Tuesday, quite possibly Wednesday, and so on down the line. Ridiculous. Also true, says Peter. Thank you very much indeed. It's ridiculous, the lack of respect for operators. As to them, you're self-employed and can drop you at the last minute. Yeah, precisely that. But just going back to the core gist of what I was saying, you know, we do have all of these procedures, all of this technology at our disposal, and yet we do seem chaotic at times. And one of the prime examples is it's been a while because I did spend most of my time in demolition. Last time I was on a house building site, it was fun and it was great, but it was fucking chaos, absolute chaos. You've got men and machines going past each other. You've got various trades tripping over each other. You've got somebody trying to paint and decorate while there's a landscape gardener tramping through the house. You've got people putting up timber work and that kind of thing while somebody's painting around them. You've got plasterers twiddling their thumbs because they can't get in with. What is the expression? A clusterfuck, I think is the expression. Graham says start 800 miles was 85 miles a day each way. Not a lot of miles. So no. Get paid to door to door when you leave home. You should get paid if you're doing that sort of mileage. The problem is, why would they pay somebody to mileage when they could probably find somebody at the end of their road? That's the problem. But if you leave and tell them last minute, it's a different story. I did it a few times, and the foreman was a big tit wanker. He sounds like he'd fit in rather well around here. You can do everything on apps now. Too easy, or so we think. Yeah, I mean, so just as a very quick example, and I realise this is very, very off at a tangent. You know, I went up to Volvo a few months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Both myself and Fred had an invitation to say, "Oh, would you like to come to Volvo?" To which the answer was obviously yes. And they sent us a link to an app. App arrived, put it on my phone. It's still there. I can probably show it to you. If you see the one that says events there, that's the app. Okay, so they sent that through to me. From that point on, every bit of communication related to that trip arrived. So it gave me my flight details, it gave me my hotel details, it told me who else was going to be there, it told me my itinerary for the 2 days we were there, it told me everything. Okay, all of that has been done for a few hairy-ass journalists that are going for a couple of days jolly up in Eskilstuna. The same thing for operators and operatives. I mean, that one about the PPE, and I'm fairly sure it's either 2 or 3 times somebody on this show has mentioned that thing. You know, we work in an industry, and you know, somebody will shoot me down in flames here. I have both orange and yellow, you know, full kit. So an orange coat, an orange vest, orange trousers, yellow vest. I've got the lot. Okay. By and large, I mean, I tend to take everything, but by and large, by default, I get out the car, I stick on my boots, I stick on my hard hat, and I reach for the yellow, because most of the industry, until fairly recently, tended to be yellow PPE. Orange used to be rail predominantly, but then we had a bit of a switch. People started to use orange. Now, when you employ somebody, how hard is it to say, okay, have you got your competence card? Yes. Can you send me the details? Yes. You know, oh, and by the way, we're an all orange site or we're an all yellow site. Make sure you come with the right PPE. And then going further than that, you know, I can't remember who it was, but somebody, I know one of our viewers got sent home because somebody at site didn't like the boots they'd arrived in. They were perfectly legal. They were safety tested. They had all the steel protection, toe cap, undersole, all of that. They had everything they needed to be. They weren't rigger boots, because I know some people get awfully uptight about rigger boots. They were all absolutely hunky-dory, but that site didn't like them. So somebody, bearing in mind footy, so, potentially driving 85 miles to work, he gets there and somebody looks him up and down and says, "You've arrived in yellow, you should be orange," or "You've arrived in orange, you should be yellow. And can I have a look at those boots?" "Ah, yes, we don't like those. We prefer a different type." Tell them in advance. This is not difficult. This is very, very easy. And we have instant communication. As an example, as a further example, when I have a guest coming on to this show or one of our evening shows, to join this show as a guest is the press of one button. I send them a link, they press the button, and they are here. They arrive in the green room. Okay. However, I also send them a single page PDF document that explains precisely how the system works. What button to press, what to do when you arrive, what to do when you leave, and various other bits and pieces, none of which they actually need. But somebody, we had Chayton Maker on a show last week. So I said to him, the guy is in internet marketing. He spends all his life on the internet. However, I thought, I'm sure he's perfectly capable of pressing that one button, but just to be on the safe side, I'll send him the joining instructions. He didn't need to use them, but he had them. How hard would that be to text, WhatsApp, or email that to somebody that you've just signed up? You must be wearing this PPE, or that PPE will be provided. You must have this type of boots, or those will be provided, because that is part of the deal now. They are supposed to provide the right PPE. Just a nonsense. Peter McKenna says, "Bugs me when you're left in the lurch by agencies. We all have lives and should be able to plan things without hindrance." The weird thing about this is costing at both ends. One of the things that has always plagued the construction industry is that notion of having machines on hire but doing nothing. There was, probably still is, a tendency. There's a house building site, we'll have a site dumper on site, 5-6 ton dumper, and we'll be using it at the very beginning of the job, but we'll park it up over in the corner there because we might need it. We might need it, and weeks go into months, go into more months, and that machine is basically sat there collecting dust, still racking up cost. It's still costing money on hire. Okay. The flip side of that is, if you've got a period of activity, I'll use demolition as an example. If you've got a period of activity, the demolition must be complete by a week next Friday, because that's when the piling contractor is going to arrive. Tell your agency workers today that a week next Friday, they're all off. Don't tell them next Friday. Tell them this Friday, when they've got 5 working days in which to find themselves alternative employment. Gary Muirhead says, "It happens a lot up here. Machines sitting about on site costing money, waiting on the fuel tracker to arrive. I've actually sat for 2 days waiting." Now, let's be, and I realise Gary is in Glasgow, so we're not talking about the wilds or the Outer Hebrides here. But I know, there are bits of the year where Scotland gets, or parts of Scotland get, impassable, snow and bad weather and what have you. Now, if you're working off in the boondocks somewhere and the diesel truck can't get through, not ideal, but I get it. Weather happens, like shit, weather happens. But day to day and for 2 days in Glasgow, what is that costing? What is that costing in terms of hired equipment, labour, site security, all of the things that go with it? You're still spending money because, for one reason or another, it might be that the diesel company can't get supplied. We had that a few years ago at the height of the energy crisis. But it might just be because Dave, they're always called Dave, Dave forgot to make the phone call to get the diesel in place. When I arrive for work, I can't show it to you because I can't actually put it on the screen. I use the Apple Reminders app, and there is about 15 points. I've put them on a checklist that I literally have to check off before I do this show. Have I got the intro in place? Are all the videos in place? Have I promoted the show on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube? All of those things. Are the lights functioning? Is the mic working? Is the mic on? All these things. Tick box. Do those things not exist at site level? Before I go home, how are we for diesel? Or, a reminder in your mobile phone. 3 o'clock every day, how are we fixed for diesel? Well, probably enough to get us through tomorrow, but touch and go, all right, well, we'll order some. How hard is that? That is correct, says Ken Hatcher. Yeah, and the house builder makes huge profits, 25%. The civil engineering jobs only make 5%. There's another point. Who was it? Costain, earlier this week, were talking about the fact that Costain was aiming for a margin of 4.5% next year. Now, that doesn't leave a huge amount of room to maneuver, does it? If the cost of bricks, blocks, concrete, steel goes just slightly in the wrong direction, you're knackered. And I don't want the public ripped off because Costain are building a road, but 4.5% is not enough. It's not enough, and I realise that's not necessarily down to efficiency, but if your aim is 4.5%, really? Peter McKenna says the site my son's on, the bosses wear orange and the workers wear yellow. Confused you will be. And if somebody gets a promotion while they're on the site, what do they do? Half and half. That was Ken, if I remember. That was me that got sent home for the wrong boots. Yeah. What the hell? Shocking treatment, says Peter McKenna. Ken says still is. We don't get away with sitting for 5 minutes, let alone 2 hours. Yeah, and they're going back to the efficiency, right? So imagine this, and for diesel, read concrete or whatever it might be, same rules apply. So the diesel fails to arrive. You've worked for as long as you can feasibly before you have to park up and wait for that diesel to arrive. The diesel pitches up the following day or the following afternoon, or even the day after that in Gary Muirhead's case. So you all get fueled up and you're ready to go. What is the response of the site management? Is it, take it steady, fellas, we've got diesel now, let's get things back on track? Or is it, get this thing called up, we lost a day and a half, get the fucking thing sorted? I bet it's that. It all seems to have happened since the switch from red to white. Yeah, I wonder. Because I think when you were talking about red diesel, I think there was kind of a dedicated supply, and I think there was a tendency to probably store that locally, either at the plant yard or possibly on site in a Bowser or something like that. Maybe we've decided, well, the diesel companies they can treat us the same as they treat petrol stations, and they can just pitch up with one of their tankers. And maybe we're asking too much of them. Agencies now tell people that they have a month's work for more money when the job is only a few days. Lads leave better jobs thinking they're getting a better deal, and then they find they've been shafted. Is that true? I mean, in fairness, Peter, it's not the first time somebody said that to me. But if that is the case, that is an absolute disgrace. It's nothing more than I expect from the recruitment side of the business, which I think it's the Wild West, but worse. It really is. But yeah, it does make me wonder. There's our friend Chayton Maycott, who's just joined us. Must be early doors. Chayton is over in Florida. Lucky fella. Morning, Chayton. Very early morning, Chayton, should I say. Jim Turner says, lads won't get notice in case they ring around for the start and jump ship before a job is finished. The lack of respect and morals is a double-edged sword. It is, but ultimately, I mean, I think, let's be honest, we all go to work to feed our families and to put a roof over our head and so on down the line. If somebody offered me the right amount of money to go and do this elsewhere, I'd be tempted. I would be tempted, no question about it. Mick Norton says house builders make £68,000 profit on each house completed, but at what cost? At what cost to the workforce? You know, I mean, I've mentioned this story before, so I'll do it very briefly. When we moved into the house that we bought off plan, moved in, and I'd been there for maybe a fortnight, and the house next door moved in beside us. We were the first in the road to be occupied, and the one next door to us became occupied. And I went out one morning basically to say hello to the new neighbour, and he put his garage door up, and his garage was all pristine and white and everything. Mine wasn't. And I thought, well, that's weird. So obviously, because the construction was still taking place, I pulled one of the builders and said, my garage hasn't been painted. So they sent somebody around, and he looked at it and he went, so what's the problem? He said, well, regardless of whether they're single or double garages, we get paid £10 for the entire thing. So walls, ceiling, the whole kit and caboodle. And he said, there's no money in it. It will take me best part of a half a day or even more than that to paint that for 10 quid. So we didn't do it. Efficiency. And hire machines will sit and idle more, and nothing is said. Yeah, imagine all of that. When you think, and this has only just occurred to me actually, when you think about telematics, and this is where I'll probably show my ignorance. When you think about telematics, we always talk about machines that are idling for too long. Which is obviously an issue with some machines. Site dumper is a prime example. The inclination is to start the thing up in the morning, ferry some bits and pieces about, go and do something else, don't turn it off, but come back, do something else, go and do something else, come back, do a bit more. So that machine is just sat there, belching fumes, less fumes these days, but belching fumes, doing nothing, but using up fuel. While that's happening, assuming you've signed up to the suitable package, there will be a telematic system somewhere saying that machine has been idling. It's been switched on for 8 hours, and of those, 6 hours were idling. You'll be able to monitor that. But how many machines are out there just sat still, switched off, and haven't been switched on for a day, a week, a month? What is the cost of that? I mean, I realise there is no average cost for the hire of a machine, but even if you took it at £100 a day, just because the math is easy, that's £500 a week, £2,000 a month to just sit there and collect dust, just on the off chance that you need it. All of which goes back to this notion of a hire model for the 21st century, where you only pay by usage. Because any hire company that buys into that will own the market. Because I think we all know. Some of you guys are talking to me from site now. Have a look around. How many machines have you got, and how many are working? Is there a dumper on your site that you haven't seen turn a wheel yet? Is there a telescopic handler parked up in the corner? Interesting to know. Been like it for 30 years or more, I would say. Ken Hash says, bad management, no one checks the tank till it's empty, then takes a few days to get the delivery. Simple. Yeah. And as I said, at least with diesel, if you work to a full stop on a Thursday afternoon, so long as you've kept your diesel supplier sweet and you know the right people to speak to, there's every possibility that 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock the following morning, that another batch of diesel will arrive and you'll be able to start work. Maybe a little bit late, but you'll be able to start work. Imagine that in an electrified world. You run out of power and nobody remembered to put the machines on charge. That's not an instant fix. You can't come in the following day, find an empty machine and say, oh, I'll go to work. That's an 8-hour job, 10 hours possibly, to get that fully charged. You will lose an entire day of production because of that, in addition to the day or half a day that you might have lost for allowing it to deplete yesterday. Dan Kahn says some companies do same. Peter, promise you everything and you get laid off if I had that situation in Nuneaton. Yep. Ken Hatcher, house builders are 10 years behind civil contractors like Costain and Balfour Beatty. JCB dumpers will switch off automatically now after 10 minutes, which is good from a fuel usage, from a fuel consumption, and from an environmental standpoint. That's fantastic. What they won't do after 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days, they won't off-hire themselves. They will just sit there clocking up cost. Peter McKenna says, the company I've been working for, a lad travelled nearly 150 miles. He booked digs for the week, expecting there to be there all week. Company told the agency 2 days, and the agency told the lad 2 months' work. I used to run a driving agency, and I'm shocked and appalled at how abysmal agencies have become. Charlatans, not the band, but charlatans. That's where the backhoe comes in handy on site as a dumper. Yeah, getting maximum efficiency out of a single machine. The haulage industry is in the same state as the construction industry. It's been like that for over 30 years. Listen, I am not some industry guru. I am not pointing out faults that have remained unseen. Everything that I said in that monologue, everyone knows it. We all know it. Every single one of us, because you encounter it every single day on every single site. And yet, nobody is doing anything to rectify any of it. Gary Muirhead says, Mick, the build quality in new builds now is shocking. I've witnessed for myself block work in the foundation cracked, missing mortar in the joints, etc., etc. The finishing is really poor, and there's a guy on social media who goes around highlighting these problems with these properties. Yeah. When I bought my house off plan, we moved in, and very exciting because we watched it go up, and we watched them put the windows in, and we watched the guttering being put in place and everything else. And we went in, and you'd expect there's going to be a bit of snagging, no great surprise. But we had snagging, I reckon, almost daily for about 6 months, and literally, I mean, we called once and said, this doesn't fit and that's not working and stuff. And at one point, the bath, or the soil pipe from the bath and the toilet in our upstairs bathroom rather, had been fed down the back of the house, but it hadn't been linked to anything. So we let the water out the bath and the toilet filled up. Okay. Every single time I called in to see the site office, or every time I called the site office to say we have another problem, they sent a guy with a mastic gun. Plumbing, mastic gun. Electrics, mastic gun. Our fireplace, we had a fireplace in the front room that was a fireplace. I think we all know what a fireplace looks like. On one side, it was fixed flush to the wall. On the other side, it was kind of hanging off, like it hadn't been pushed back, or the wall wasn't quite flush. So the thing didn't quite fit. Mastic gun. There you go. These houses come in kit form. Where, a house builder like a Barrett's or a Waits or any of these companies, they are building these by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, quite possibly by the hundreds of thousands. It's quite surprising when I travel up and down the country. Our housing estate was built by Taylor Woodrow, and all of the houses, they were all slight variations on the theme. We had one type, and the one next door was slightly different. The one up the road was slightly different, but they were all of a type. And it's quite weird. I used to drive down to see my parents in Worthing, and there's a housing estate just on the outskirts of Worthing. Exactly the same. It was almost like I'd gone full circle and come back home again. They are producing these time and time and time again. Think about this. I mean, I spend some of my time in factories. If I go to JCB is a shining example. JCB are producing backhoe loaders, telescopic handlers, all these machines. They all go down a production line, and then once every 10 machines, 100 machines, whatever it might be, one is taken off the production line and taken away for checking. All through the process of that, there's a guy who puts in the wiring loom. There's another guy that's responsible for hooking up the engine or hooking up the transmission. And if they find a fault with that, they go back and they say, Problem here, your fault. Get it sorted. Do we not do that in house building and other forms of building? Steve says, we are doing 12 hours plus a day, 6 days, and yet we still get hounded and told this needs to be done. Deadline. Joke. Even I see they need another machine and men. Efficiency. This is in many ways, Demolition tends to be like the first responder. They're often the first people on site because they have to move something out of the way to allow the construction to begin. And I've known of demolition companies, and this is I'm not just making stuff up. I promise you this is the case. They bid for a job in 2022. It was a long old process, different contractors were weighed up, different methods were weighed up. But sometime in 2023, they were told they got the job, but there is planning to be taken care of, or there's other bits and pieces that need to be taken care of. So they've had more than a year. But the phone call will often be, on a Tuesday afternoon, can you start Monday? You've had 2 years. Planning doesn't work like that. The planning office doesn't phone you up and say, yes, you've got the go ahead. Could you start Monday? No. It's just a lack of joined up thinking. It really is. Dan says, got to go have a wonderful weekend, guys. Stay safe. See you busy tailed on Monday. Saturday show, Mark. No Saturday show this week, I'm afraid, Dan. Other commitments, I'm afraid. If we left houses back in the day with the state the block work is now, you'd be sacked. Yeah, you would. We checked the hour meter clock on a Liebherr RRV, the Wilkson Railway, and it had 1,152 hours. 735 were idling. More than 3/4 of that life, that machine's life, it just been sat there ticking over, belching toxins into the atmosphere and costing money. Mad. There's 500,000 Redrow new build in Preston. The buyers. There's a 500,000. I think it's a 500,000 pound Redrow new build in Preston. The buyers moved in and moved out a week later. It needed 150 grand's worth of repairs before they can move back in. Yeah, and there's another thing. When we moved into our new place, they asked us if you have any problems, put them on a snagging list, drop them into the site office, and we will get them taken care of. Which I did. But rather than coming out and doing that problem and fixing this and fixing that, and no, it was one guy, I'll do that, bye. And then half an hour later, somebody come along, I'll do that bit, bye. Days and weeks and months we had of that. Steve says, I'm honestly goosed. JCB employ most of their employers, so there's commitment. All agency works don't care. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. Keeping the heater warm. Yeah. And again, listen, we've had this discussion about machines, particularly electric machines, when the winter does roll in, and we've got a couple of Scots in our midst, and it does get a bit nippy up in Scotland. So if you are idling machine to keep yourself warm in the winter, not a problem. But 3/4 of the life of a machine just idling. That's going to cost a lot of money in wasted fuel, wasted insurance, wasted transport and everything else. Kind of makes you wonder why they bought the bloody machine in the first place if it's only actually doing a job for 1/4 of its life. Madness, people, madness. But that will do us for now. I'm making words up now. For today is what I meant. I'm going to call it a day. No Saturday show. I'm just going to remind you what the Walrus of Demolition looks like because it did amuse me enormously. Yes, no show tomorrow, but I will be back on Monday. We have O&K taking on somebody. Who are they taking on again? Priestman, wasn't it? O&K versus Priestman in the Excavator World Cup. There will obviously be a brand new mystery machine to take care of as well. Don't know what that will be, and it would be wrong for me to tell you. So yeah, there we are. I think they should install night heaters in machines. Yeah, you can get them for camper vans and what have you. Mark writing, have a good weekend, Endall. You too, Mark. Stay safe. I'll see you on Monday. Mick Norton says many house build managers are clearly holding down positions above their abilities. Overseeing snags are at the mercy of incompetent managers purporting competence off the back of a worthless CSCS card. Which kind of coalesces some conversations we've had on this show. Can't remember if it was last week or earlier this week, about not my job, pal. You know, if you go to Taylor Woodrow and say, I've got a problem, my fireplace is hanging off, Taylor Woodrow didn't put that fireplace in, somebody else did. Do they care? You know, based on my experience with my garage being painted, chances are that they're being paid, you know, 10 quid to install a fireplace. Do they really give a toss how it looks, how it finishes? Whether it stays hanging up? Probably not. Peter McKenna says, bye all and have a great weekend. And Gary Muirhead, you can go off, people, can't you? He says, I'll try and tune in next week between cocktails. Yes, Gary Muirhead, poolside, budgie smugglers on, large pina colada in his hand, feeling no pain. I hope you have a fantastic time, Gary. Give my best to the family. Happy birthday again. Happy birthday to your son as well. I'll see you all again next week. Till then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. See you soon.